Thank you for tuning in and listening. We are delighted to welcome you to the podcast of Fiona Arrigo, founder of the award-winning Arrigo Programme and A Place to Heal. Fiona Arrigo is one of the foremost internationally acclaimed intuitive healers, a biodynamic psychotherapist, mentor and life teacher, and acknowledged as a leader in her field. This week on Sunday Sanctuary, the power of the heart. The heart is the centre of all spiritual traditions. In this Sunday Sanctuary, Fiona invites you to take a look at our developing planetary heart, the importance of the heart, the new heart muscle, and what it looks and feels like.
So, good morning everybody, and welcome to our 7th Sunday Sanctuary. And this meeting will be on the power of the heart. I'd also like to let you know that I won't be giving Sunday Sanctuary next week, but we'll re-continue the week after. So I have to follow my own medicine, to go in, to reflect, to be still, to come out of screen time, and to vision all the different offerings that I would love to be able to offer you all. So I will be taking a week off. So I'd like to also connect the threads of what we have been going through these last 7 weeks. And I urge you to, Ben will put up where you can find our links on Spotify or indeed on YouTube. And maybe next week just recap from one of those talks that we've been sharing together, because there are threads and it all is a weave of creating a field of connection and threads to hold our awareness in a certain way. So to keep with the simplicity of today, there's of course a lot of noise going on in the outside world about how we're going to come out of lockdown, and if we're in a pandemic or if we're in a pandemic, and all sorts of people, feeling uncomfortable about being locked in, and the vaccines that are coming, and was this staged and was it natural, and all these questions that are going on. And I really want to encourage you to listen, be attentive, but really keep expanding. This work, as far as I'm concerned, is our soul work, and where we can really be the most effective by choosing our awareness field, choosing our where we really want to, in a way, where we want to live in consciousness and what we want to give our energy to. So, to repeat what I said last week, is that a new consciousness is being born and an old consciousness is dying. This is what Gary Zukav said. The new consciousness shows us ourselves, the world and the universe in new ways. The old consciousness does not, but both coexist in us at the same time. So we have 2 feet in 2 different worlds, if not many, many, many worlds. And as we talked about probably 4 weeks ago, we're all in different boats. But what many of us as visionaries, light workers, spirit weavers, any of these words, we're really working towards co-creating a different world, a different energy for us to live in. And I really, really keep saying our inner work and our inner guidance and our inner arrow is absolutely key if we want to be in service for this co-creation, where we come out of our own limitations and our own selfishness and come into our actions are of benefit to all human beings. Our actions can help co-create a different type of world. I believe COVID, for whyever it's come, has been the end of living selfishly. We can start to live with a different consciousness. So, looking at our soul maps, and I've been using words as medicines for a great part of my life and as sort of guidelines along the road of life, and words that can anchor soul awareness is for sure simplicity and quietude and being poised and being non-reactive and being non-triggered. And really, for now, allowing us to expand into being the wonderful human beings that I absolutely believe we are. I do not for 1 minute believe we are bad. It's not to say I'm not naive. I'm a grounded grandmother in age. And so I'm not pirouetting on pink, fluffy clouds. My feet are very much anchored to the earth. And of course, I see the fights between good and evil and the disruptions and the corruptions and the places where we are not at our best. But I also believe, written deep down, if you want, into the good DNA, that we are good as human beings, that our hearts are good as human beings. And as we reclaim our original, if you want, blueprint, our essential energy, we have to go through this process of clearing the debris, a bit like being in a bomb site in a way, where everything has been dumped and on us, all the rubble. So we are going through this massive purge, this in a way collective purification, where we are redeeming ourselves from the people that have been rushed and stressed and frazzled and hurt and harmed and disconnected, and pushing into a quieter, more peaceful human being. These are the blessings of the last 6-7 weeks. Amongst the pain, amongst the devastation, amongst all the things that are going on that we know about. But there is also many, many, many blessings where we are quietening down. And in the last 7 weeks, I've been reflecting as well in my own life. There's been time for such deep reflection, time to walk, time to listen, time to cook. I think many of us have been cooking like wild dervishes. Time to smell, time to, as somebody said earlier, to go out and suddenly see that life is like vivified. You can suddenly see colours differently. And time to listen to music. And that really creating a coherence coming out of the chaos, so that I can come into a coherence of my own heartbeat, my own heart. So I try in several moments of the day now, not just to meditate, but to have this inner awareness. And often I will listen to beautiful music that takes my heart on a journey, that lifts me and transports me. Polishing my own heart, allowing it to relax, to de-stress, to uncurl, and to expand. So even though I can say that I've been working hard, my workload in a way hasn't changed, but my attitude and my spaciousness has massively changed in the last 7 years by me constantly being able to find this inner space, this new point of reference that this collective time has allowed. So my deep hope and my deep prayer is that this time is not wasted for any of us. We are so deeply needed, and this continues to be in my heartfelt awareness. You, me, us are so needed, and we can begin to make a change. You know, often you've heard me say that working in this new Aquarian age that is approximately 30 years birthed out of the 2,100 years, we have a long way to go, but we can evolve and we can come back to something kinder, more tuned in, more aware, more heart-based, as a human being, as a human custodian of Madre Gaia, but also of each other. And so for this, we need to have a de-stressed heart. Meditation teaches us, of course, to turn our attention in, and in the great Buddhist teachings, the great Mahamudra, the seal also of the deep, deep, deep emptiness. And all the work that I've been lucky enough, and many of the biodynamic team at this moment are on this call. And thank you for your work. And I'm so grateful to be part of this work that really brings deep peace and reconciliation to the body, so that the body and the mind and the psyche soul can start again to come into a coherence. The minute we're in coherence, we're in a different realm, a magical realm, where things are easy and flow. It's the spikes and the stress and the interruption that takes us out of this coherence. And coherence is everything for this new world. You know, we can't be doing good deeds on the outside and coming back and screaming at home. We can't be looking at the stars and using plastic on the earth. We can't be doing yoga with one hand and being completely uncaring to ourselves in the other. We come to an age of coherence. So everything that we can do to pay attention to how we bring coherence to our hearts and to our lives. And for me, this is very much also about turning our attention in to begin to notice the soul. And again, the soul resides in music, in poetry, as art, in deep beauty, in peace, in joy, and in love. We have to turn our attention to notice what it has always been and will always be present. Take a breath. There was a sweet saying I read the other day, and the people sat still on the earth, healed, and spring came, flowers bloomed, brightening hope and beauty back into the world. We've just come out of the very powerful Wasak moon, which was on Thursday, which was the most powerful moon. The moon was in the sun sign of Taurus, and this is the most powerful time of the supermoon in our year. And it's when the veils are really, really thin, and the great blessings come from the Buddha and from the energetic beings. And it's said that the Buddha shines forth into the hearts of men at this particular time, in the prayer that is also recanted throughout the world of may love and light and wisdom return to planet Earth. May love and light and wisdom return to all the hearts of men. May love and light and wisdom return to our earth to restore the plan. Those aren't the exact words, but you know the essence of it. May love and light and wisdom return. So we, my friends, are welcoming ourselves home to the power of our unbelievable heart. And what's sad here in all our lives, myself included, as I've said so many times, I am not any further along in this game. I am just able to share my ponderings of the week with you and my 35 years of working here. But every step that I talk to you about, I'm having to integrate and learn in myself. They always say that, you teach best what you need to learn. So imagine how much I've had to learn. But I do know that we are unnourished in our hearts, so deeply unnourished. And we have this beautiful, beautiful heart. Human energetic heart is magnificent. And we need to pay attention to that. We don't pay attention to our hearts. We don't. We don't feed our hearts. We don't look after our hearts. We don't give the heart any type of reference in our daily life. And yet here it is, a pulsing, life-giving, emotionally and spiritually charged organ in your body. It's interesting, isn't it, that the thymus gland, they say that when we're born, is like the size of a golf ball or something. Again, don't take anything I'm saying literally. I'm probably going to get all my facts always wrong. I'm just trying to paint pictures for you. And when we die, that this thymus gland is actually shrunken to a pea size. It's obviously not the size of a golf ball, but it's bigger than a pea. And this being the center of unconditioned love. So interesting, isn't it, that it's shrinking rather than growing in our lives. So let's look today at the magnificence of our human heart, to enforce that our human heart is good. Our power to expand and recognize our beauty within. And I'd like to thank you all, every single one of you, for your work, for your hearts, for your dedication, for your commitment, for your willingness to show up, to be change activists, to be the change you want to see in the world, as the great Gandhi said. So please take a moment now just to put your hand on your heart and say thank you to you deeply. Thank you to your heart. Thank you to you. And just sit with that for 30 odd seconds to really allow yourself to connect to the beauty of your magnificent heart. And just feel that as your heart settles, just settles. Your hand on your heart and you settle. And in this group, we are in a coherence thus, out of chaos into the coherence of the heart. And we settle. And the world needs our hearts to settle. The world needs our hearts to expand. The world needs our hearts to be nourished. So you can create a powerful electromagnetic field around yourselves, generated from your heart. Last week we talked about spaciousness and a chance to change our addictive brains, patterns, and to rest and to expand. And the baby steps and the giant steps and the radical shifts that we're doing as we birth for this call, for this week's Sunday Sanctuary, the awareness of the potential and possibility of this new human collective heart. So the question is, have we done enough in these last 6-7 weeks of our global retreat, in our rehabilitation? have we done enough? And if we haven't, don't beat yourself up for 1 minute, but give yourself the time over the next 3 weeks to really work with all the things that you've been looking at, learning, not just here, obviously on Sunday Sanctuary, all the places that you've been, and come in and effect change in yourselves that begins to be anchored enough. So when you're called out into the world, you will have something new, a new muscle inside of yourself to harness and work out into the world as becoming, in a way, the first steps of becoming a new human, birthing these different qualities in ourselves, custodians holding space for the world. So I'd love to play you some music right now, which was created by Gary Milken with the beautiful Thich Nhat Hanh speaking over it. And when we allow ourselves to really let music transport you, listen to this music with your hand on your heart and feel your heart trying to find a new expansion of itself. And allow yourself to be moved. Allow yourself to be touched. And come back in. Don't brutally open your eyes and jump back in. Take your time to luxuriate, to slow everything down so you can really commune with a different part of yourself. So when it stops, let it settle, and I will talk gently again.
May the sound of this bell penetrate deep into the cosmos. Even in the darkest spots, living beings are able to hear it clearly, so that all suffering in them cease, understanding come to their heart, and they transcend the path of sorrow and death.
Nguyện người nghe tình thức
The universal Dharma door is already open. The sound of the rising tide is heard clearly. The miracle happens. A beautiful child appears in the heart of a lotus flower. One single drop of this compassionate water is enough to bring back the refreshing spring to our mountains and rivers.
Nghe chuông phiền não tan mây khói, lặng thân an miệng mỉm cười. Hơi thở nương chuông về chánh niệm, vườn tâm hoa tuệ xinh tươi.
Listening to the bell, I feel the afflictions in me begin to dissolve. My mind calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born on my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath brings me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flowers of peace bloom beautifully.
Phổ môn vọng tiếng, kiểu dưng bé thơ xuất hiện giữa lòng đóa sen. Cơm lộ một giọt rơi lên, xuân về trên khắp mọi miền núi sông. Phổ môn vọng tiếng, điệu dưng bé thơ xuất hiện giữa lòng đóa sen. Cơm lộ một giọt rơi lên, xuân về trên khắp mọi miền núi sông.
Music, poetry opens us to our soul, to the abstract, to the untouchable. As we keep working, we will find the quality of our souls start to shine through, to be authentically ourselves, transparent, pure, poised, settled, loving. These higher vibrational qualities of self. As we make different choices in our lives, what do we say yes to? What do we say no to? Choosing where we consciously want to be in the world. This world of us has taught us to be fractured. And in this great step up and in, we are being called to shine. You know, we've all had to hold ourselves down. We've been sabotaging ourselves by keeping ourselves so small. So the the invitation is for all of us is to lean into the quality of our souls and to choose soulfulness, to choose soul awareness, to choose to live and see each other through the eyes of the soul. This is coming. This is our human potential. This is the lifetime that we flip the old ways and we choose a different way to walk. We have been living, and we are living actually, in a consciousness awareness sense of massive acceleration. But equally in this lockdown, we have been given a moment to enter into peace. And, you know, what I often say is that in this we are collecting the pieces, the lost, fragmented pieces of ourselves that keep us spiked and out of present time. And the slowing down is also mindfulness, it's also tantric. When we do everything slowly, we drop into present time. When we do everything with an awareness of an awareness, we drop into present time. So the medicine is poise and slowness and stillness. This is one of the runways to soul awareness. I was reading the other day that there's a new syndrome amongst so many of the syndromes that have been birthed in our complex 21st century lives, which is called awareness fragmentation disorder. And I was thinking about that, you know, it's like I certainly feel in this lockdown that I've regained more memory. I've regained, like a much more lit up brain. And that's due to the absence of keeping up and pushing, however noble and good life may be. And I'm sure many of us live good lives, but there's been that push. And as this slowness, this luxuriating of slowing everything down leads you to a soulful awareness, and it takes you out of the doing into this being present with what is, no past, no future, be here now, where life begins to naturally synergize, life begins to come into a natural coherence because we're removing the spikes of chaos. So we are at this wonderful fork in time on this road, and it's a time for humanity's heart to rise, to be nourished, to be fed. Take care of your own hearts. Look after your hearts. Look up at the sky, feet on the earth, dance, sing, write, cook, poems, garden, all wonderful for the heart, all wonderful for the human spirit, all wonderful for the soul. You know, the heart itself has been the center of all spiritual traditions. And we know now, due to heart maths and masses of research that has been done, that the heart is so much stronger than the brain. And I believe that there is a new heart intelligence which we are collectively birthing. And as we turn our attention, as I keep saying, to love, to peace, to joy, to happiness, to interconnection, that this is where this new heart intelligence can grow. It's not new, it's always been here, but it's giving space in the stillness, in the quietness, in the quietude, in the slowing down, that the heart can expand. What a joy to let your heart expand. Put your hand on your heart and love it back. Give it space. Here, you know, we drop into the eternal. which is always present, but we've blocked it by being so externally focused, going out to the path of no return. And then boom, bang, suddenly here we are. This steady, slow, mindful, restful states of heart coherence, of being, allows the smoothness to come into the nervous system so that grace can enter. We know this when we feel people and we see people, that in this beauty of a smooth nervous system, grace can enter. And it begins in this kind of present timelessness, where something else can be present to the everyday, mundane. But we have to connect and to notice, and to keep noticing yourself with the drink, with the droplets that nature will give you, which self-love will give you, which art, music, cooking, of living in the abstract. That all this will bring to you as nectars for your heart and for your soul.
This is what we're reclaiming as new human beings, is we're, in a way, reclaiming the original blueprint of if we'd been left alone to discover ourselves in naturalness, in natural communion, and not being forced out into mathematics or English literature or algebra or, drawing a chair or a piano. If we left, we need to regain the imagination of the soul. And this is kind of what I think, with this deconstruction that is taking place. I was trying to read some of Steiner's work the other day, but it was so, it's funny that he was so connected, and yet his languaging is so highbrow. It's really hard to get into it. But in simplicity, it was about where children are allowed to experience the joy of learning, where we can come into that artistic appreciation, being, connection of life. And so here we are, people, in the great undoing, the great deconstruction, the great removing of the debris of everything that has been piled on top of us, to grow together this wonderful, wonderful heart muscle, and to really, just in practical ways, stay away from stress. Get that right out of your body, because it spikes you. You have to, we've spoken about this as well, as about how do we find our own rhythms? How do we find our natural balance? How do we find our natural flow? What's good for me may not be good for you. We have to understand this in each other. We all have our own specific flow. And somehow to get that kind of interconnection with all our different flows working. Stress itself, I think, creates something like 14,000 biochemical changes. And it creates this tension in the nervous system, and enough of it mental inconsistencies and resilient depletions and compromised in how we are in the world. Stress has to be a no-no from now on. Go to your gardens. Say no. I'm really sending that prayer of hope and no into our collective. Say no. Not as a fist fighter. There's nothing to protest about unless you're driven there. I would caution not to. But say no to living a disturbed life. And say yes to generating this field of beauty in your heart, which, according to heart maths, is I don't know how much they've measured it, but it's certainly 60 times greater in the electromagnetic field than the brain. And the heart, when it starts to activate, heals. I think it's one of the original cells in the body when we start to grow inside our mothers. But the coherent heart, just as we did when we came out of that music, which I'll play at the end for you again, so you can just sit in that, and I will put the name of it in the chat. But when we come into that coherence, it brings that peace into our fields, into the space around us, but also deep into the harmonics of your cells. You know, we are miracles. What else do I want to say? I don't know, maybe I've said enough. There's a quote by Bruce Lipton that I wrote down the other day, and he's saying, when we make changes in our external environment through this coherence of living, it affects directly our genes. And every time, as you've heard me say, every time we bless, we do forgiveness, we do acceptance, we say we're sorry. Every time we come into this very precious still point, this is again the coherence of the heart, the neutral point, new life comes. The regeneration of life comes. And the wisdom of your heart starts to lead. The wisdom of your spirit starts to lead. The wisdom of your intuition starts to lead. So here we are now, making choices about, can we globally together live from our hearts? And it's a practice. And as I've said compassionately, this is going to take time. But we are a sacred planet, and we are a sacred people. And it's recognizing this when we look at each other, when we can begin to see the soul of the other. When the soul starts to come through and we're dialoguing and interacting with the souls of each other, rather than the concretization of what we look like, you know, what we're dressed like, you know, whatever all that is, to really begin to look at each other through the beauty of each other's souls. This is an invitation. And the invitation is the allowance and the birth. As we invite, as we see, we allow and we birth. So the prayer field is the return to the sacredness of the original blueprint of this planet. And how we, in all the debris and clutter of lifetime after lifetime, are now being skimmed. And we're now taking off layers. And each layer and each consolidation, in a way, is an offering, as I keep saying, into the great altar of life. So seek stillness, seek presence of the moment, cultivate allowance and acceptance as much as you can, because this is soul talk. Escape judgments and perfectionism. Look for authenticity and transparency. Be tender, tend to yourself. And all this will create sacred space. So you live in your own sacred space, where you make a stand for beauty, where you return to the 0 point. And you look consciously of what are you waking up with. You know, really be conscious in the mornings of how you enter the world. And be very, if you do 2 practices, just be conscious. Your first thoughts, your first actions, don't go to your mobile phones. Rest in natural great peace before you enter into the world. Rest in natural great peace before you go to sleep. Create that coherence to guide you through. And look for what makes your heart sing. Look for what makes your heart sing and your soul sing. So at the end of the 7 weeks, it's simply to invite us all to live more compassionately, with more tolerance, to follow our hearts, to inspire each other, to uplift each other, and to unite each other. And let us spread a new world, a new offering, a new blessing, a new hope, and believe that we can. Cultivate it, look for it, and invite it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And just let yourself, again, as Brigitte said, just put your hand over your heart and listen with your heart. And let us together, as we listen, create a coherence in a space and to create this sacredness. Okay, and again, thank you for letting me talk to you for the last 7 weeks. I'm not going, but I am just going in for a week or two. And then hopefully I'll come out with more yummies to share and reflections. And yeah, bless you all. Thank you. Okay, no other words before we turn to music.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. If you enjoyed this episode, please do comment, like, subscribe and share so that we can collectively assist more people in these times. And for further information, social links and resources, please visit www.theArrigoProgramme.com. Until the next episode, be well and look after yourself. Sending you our blessings. Goodbye for now.